Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Jayhawker podcast. I'm your host, Nate Bukaty, and we've got a special one today, direct from the Kansas University football complex. We're going to be talking with the brand new co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach, Matt Lubick. As always, we are presented by Black & Veatch, by the University of Kansas Health System, and by the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Okay, I'm really excited to have this conversation as this is a return of sorts to the University of Kansas for a co-offensive coordinator and now tight ends coach, Matt Lubick here, and we're in the KU football facilities. Matt, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be here.
Tell me about the decision to come back or to come to Kansas. I know you had been a part of the staff before and working remotely, which we'll get into in a little bit, but tell me what the process was like this time around when Coach called you and deciding to come.
Yeah, it was an easy one, but it was also very unexpected. So this last fall, I coached at Nevada, and it was kind of really to see if I could just do it because of my health experience and getting over still being on chemo and dealing with being in remission, but still dealing with leukemia. And I was able to get through the fall and felt good, and felt like things are going really good, and I'm feeling good. And then all of a sudden, I was back in Denver getting treatments, and I got the phone call about, hey, would you be interested in coming back here? It was definitely caught me off guard because it wasn't in my thought process, but it was such an easy decision to come back here because I was treated so well by Coach Leopold, the whole staff, when I was an analyst here. And matter of fact, could not be treated any better. And so when you have an opportunity to come back and work with amazing people, and not to mention all the momentum that's behind Kansas football, it was really easy.
Okay, so for those that don't know your story, it's been chronicled and people can read up on it, but just let's give them a little bit of background there. You mentioned the battle with leukemia. What was the timing like in terms of what your journey was while you were working as an analyst for Kansas and what you were going through at that time?
Yeah. So when I was an analyst with Kansas, actually when I got diagnosed, when I was an analyst, I worked remotely. So I would come out here during fall camp and spring ball to get a feel for what's going on, the terminology, and then I would actually go back to Colorado at home, and I would meet with the coaches each week and give them ideas on various aspects of the game plan. And so I did that. I was just 22 or 23, and I really enjoyed it. And so this was my second year doing it. Well, I came up here for fall camp. I felt fine. Everything was going good. Training for a marathon and was running a lot during fall camp. The day I went home, I went home after fall camp to Colorado, and I was going to continue to start doing the game plan ideas. One day I felt a little bit off, and I went for a run and got a little sick, and I was like, well, this doesn't feel right. And my mom said, hey, just go and get checked out. They took my blood, and I had like freakish low white and red blood cells. Still didn't feel terrible, but they admitted me to the hospital right away. And originally I wasn't diagnosed with leukemia. That was a concern, but they looked at my cells, and the cells I did have looked healthy. They thought I had a virus. And so basically what they said, you can go home, and eventually you're going to recover, but let's just keep testing you every week or so and see if this blood bounces back. So I went home. I felt great. I was meeting with the Kansas coaches each week, giving game plans. And then about a month into that, my blood kept on actually getting lower, even though I felt fine. My white counts and my red counts were getting lower, and my bone marrow wasn't making blood cells. So a cancer doctor said, we don't think it's cancer, but why don't you go in and get retested, and we're going to actually do a bone marrow biopsy. And that's where they drill into your bone. And so I did that, and then it immediately came back as a leukemia. And the type of leukemia I have, or I'm in remission now, but is acute myeloid leukemia. So it's an aggressive type of leukemia that stops your bone marrow from making blood cells. And so, there's different degrees of that too. It's different than like there's bone cancers, and there's a whole bunch of different type of cancers where they stage cancers, where they stage you like, you're in stage 1, stage 2, stage. With blood cancers, they don't do that. They put you, with mine in particular, in a couple of categories. They put you in a favorable category, and that's based on outcome and survivability. They can put you in an intermediate category, which could go either way, or they could put you in a based on the type of chromosome matching I had, which mine was not good. They put me in an adverse, which is the worst category you could be in. So the thing I had to do to save my life right off the bat, they told me after a week in the treatment, was do a transplant. So I did a bone marrow transplant, where, you know, it was a challenging time, but had amazing doctors, amazing support from family, friends, and it went really well. I was in the hospital for about 45 days, and I had to live 3 months by the hospital, and to try to get my strength back, to recover from the transplant. And then, you know, I just got a little bit stronger each month, and that's what led into having an opportunity to coach again in the fall.
So, and then did you have to do chemo on top of that, other types of treatment as well?
Yeah, I was doing chemo this whole last year. I just got off chemo at the end of December. So just recently got off chemo, and I've already noticed feeling a ton better. And the chemo, I'm very fortunate. They made a lot of advances treating leukemia. I was part of a trial. So the leukemia I was on, or the chemo I was on, the only side effect I had was fatigue. And so I coached all fall during chemo, and it was an oral chemo. So like when I did the transplant, I was more of intensive, where they inject the chemo into you. But this was an oral chemo I could tolerate really well and still do daily stuff. And so, yeah, I was on that, and not a ton of side effects. I was able to still coach. And now that I'm off it, I can feel the difference of just having more energy.
I'm curious, when you go through something like this, just the perspective on, you know, all of a sudden you're probably contemplating your own mortality. You're dealing with excruciating processes like a bone marrow transplant and the chemo and all of that. How much has that changed you as a coach? Are there aspects of you as a coach that maybe are, I don't know if better is the right word, but I don't know. How has it changed you?
Yeah,
you go through the whole process.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's changed everything, and just, you know, leukemia is I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at, and there's a lot of people that don't make it to where I'm at right now, and so I'm very grateful. But it's a horrific disease, but it's definitely blessed me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, the coaching aspect, the thing that's really jumped out at me is, you know, as a coach, one of your main responsibilities, to me it's the most important responsibility, but now it's a lot more real to me, is to build hope and confidence in your players. And you do that by being positive and coaching them and getting them to believe in themselves. And so, you know, when I was first diagnosed, especially with the adverse type, I didn't have a lot of hope, and I didn't have a lot of people giving me hope. I had people still believing in me. But then I did, you know, I saw a whole bunch of different doctors, and I found a doctor who actually spoke hope into me, and that changed everything. It changed my world. It changed, I don't think it's a coincidence. I started responding to treatments better. Everything started going better. When you feel someone, and the nurses that I would see every day, there would be some that would just come in every day and just would strengthen your mood just by believing in you, saying, hey, that's okay to make a mistake, or that test isn't. We've seen those tests all the time. You're going to be fine. What it made me think as a coach, how important that is to build confidence, and how important your words are that affect the people that you're coaching, and how the emotions you can trigger, good or bad, based on the news you deliver and the way you coach them. And so it's really made me it's always, I know, been important to me to instill confidence and get players to believe in themselves, but it's way more real now. Yeah. I've seen the effect how it's had on me, and how important it was for me in this enduring battle to have hope, and to have people that actually spoke confidence in me that, hey, you can do this, you can survive this, and this is going good.
That's profound, because I think we have this idea, at least I know I do, the sport of football is such a tough sport. It's such a sport where, you know, it's physical domination, and you almost have to have a meanness, you know, in order to exert that physical domination on somebody else. You have this picture of the old school football coach that's just beating his kids down all the time, and in an effort to maybe try to toughen them up, which I'm sure there's still components to that. You've got to be tough and everything, but this is almost the exact opposite of what you're talking about. I mean, and I'm curious how you found that balance of coaching in a sport that requires so much physicality and everything with that optimism and hope all at the same time.
You know, it does. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, football's a game of adversity, ups and downs, and you're not going to win every rep. You're not going to win every play, and how you deal with that adversity. And And so again, leukemia was for me, it was an adversity story. So a lot of the lessons and things I was going through, and I'm still using to battle through, I've been able to use in coaching, and because a lot of times you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control your response. And like I always tell people, it's like someone told me this, adversity is inevitable, but being miserable is optional. And so it's always a choice.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can get, specifically as coaches, your players to understand that, like, hey, this adversity is part of growth. That's how you get stronger. When things get hard, that's how you get stronger. And football is just an example of life. It's going to happen in life, and so you can kind of twist it. That adversity is an opportunity to grow and get better. And a mistake's an opportunity to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I think the real stories that I've had to deal with, hey, this is real adversity about life and death, and how you deal with that. There's carryover in teaching how you deal with adversity in a football game. And it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. And matter of fact, it's probably a way to get better. There's a way to get better from it. And so that part's been just another example of like how this disease it's given me some I'm very grateful for some lifelong tools to deal with things that come up.
It's interesting. So, sat here with Coach Leipold months ago, and I geek out on these types of motivational things, but the three words that you see written on the walls here: pride, relentless, and believe. You already touched on believe, and I remember talking to Coach Leipold about why relentless was one of the words he chose, and he said he saw that on the walls at Nebraska when he had gone to study what they were doing when Tom Osborne had it rolling at Nebraska, and he said, that's a description he would always want for his team to have, is to be relentless. And it's, that I think about that word a lot. When you're battling something like what you battled, you have to be relentless too, right? Like you have to come back every single day, and even when you're having a bad day, keep answering the bell, right? I mean, is that something that stands out to you as well?
It's a battle, just and like sports, it's a battle, and each day is a battle, and some days go better than others, and you got to kind of weather the storm on the bad days, and really get through the day. And so, and that part of relentless is just not giving up, and when things, you're going to have a bad day. You might have a bad day where you don't feel like getting out of bed, but the next day is the next day, and I would just, you try to refocus and reset. We talk a lot here about the process and giving your best in the moment, and that's a lot what the leukemia was. Each day was a challenge, and certain days were harder than others, but you can get through it, and you need help to get through it, and I did. I've had a ton of help and a ton of people that have loved and cared about me, and as good a care as you could possibly have to get me to where I am right now.
Okay, before we get into the coaching stuff, I want to talk about the football stuff too. But you mentioned something in passing there that you were running, and you and I spoke before we did this. You've been a distance runner. You've run 2 marathons in your life, including the Boston Marathon. And I just want everybody to know, if you don't understand this, I learned this the hard way. This is going to be my little humble brag. I ran 1 marathon in my life, and I was really, really proud of it. That was 24 years ago. But it was the Chicago Marathon. I ran it in 3 hours and 40 minutes, and I was a half an hour short of qualifying for Boston. Like, I thought I was going, and I still didn't even come close. You ran the Boston Marathon. How did you get into running, and why was that such a big part of your life?
Yeah, so running, I always liked to run. I never really got into long-distance running until I actually started working for Kansas as an analyst. And as an analyst, because I was working remote, I had a little more time. And so to burn that time, I just started running more and more. And then a guy said, hey, you got some talent. You might be able to actually qualify for a marathon if you really put your mind to it. And that motivated me. And I love the therapeutic feeling of running after the runner's high, after you finish a run. I love the regimented that you have to do when you train, of how you have to plan it out. And there's a lot of mental side to actually training for a marathon. And then, I had the success right at my first marathon. I wasn't sure to qualify, and I qualified, and then that really got me fired up because of all the hoopla behind the Boston, and I was very excited. And I went out and ran that, and I think I ran a 3:01. So I was happy, but I was disappointed because I wanted to break 3. That's still a goal. That's still a goal of mine.
Yeah,
that I'm gonna get done. But the experience was amazing, And I'm so glad I got into it, and it's become part of who I am as far as I miss running. And I've just got kind of clear to run again about 2 months ago. So the last, being on chemo, going through the transplant, all that stuff takes a lot out of you, weight-wise, just being able to breathe with a low blood cell count, all that stuff. But now that I'm off chemo, my counts are starting to get back to normal where I can breathe and feel like a normal person. It feels like I'm a new man. And so I'm very, very grateful and just humbled that I can run again. And that is my goal, is to run one more Boston Marathon where I can break 3, hopefully.
Well, that's going to be amazing when you do that. A couple things to me, I'm curious if this resonated with you. I didn't do distance running. I played team sports as a kid. I got into it as an adult. Two things that I really enjoyed about it. One was, if you're a goal-oriented person, I feel like your progress is very tangible and measurable. You can measure it in time, how much faster you're getting, and distance, like how much farther you can run if you keep adding it. So I really like that part of it, and I also loved the alone time. Just to be like alone with my thoughts while I was out running, and I would sort all kinds of things out in my brain. Are those things that you connected with you about running at all?
No question. Yeah, it was a spiritual time for me, especially some of those long, grueling runs where you're out there for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a lot of prayer time, and a lot of time for me where I could grow in my faith.
Yeah.
And the sense of accomplishment that, unless you're a runner, it's kind of hard to describe, that you get after a good workout that you feel like you gave your best is just an unbelievable feeling that you can get day in and day out.
Yeah, and you don't have to beat another person to do it either. You're just,
it's against you.
Yeah, it's against yourself.
Exactly.
I was curious. You mentioned prayer. I remember that a lot. Did you ever draw up plays? Like, does your mind when you're running ever wander to like inventing some kind of scheme on offense or anything like that?
It goes all over the place.
Yeah.
There have been plays, things I still got to get done. Matter of fact, that's what I would do. So my routine, I loved my routine. Pre-sickness, when I'd get up early in the morning and study film and drink coffee. And then I would study. I always try to be a week ahead in game plan wise. And these are the presentations I would put together that I would present. At that time, it was Andy Kolnicki and all the guys that were here. And but then my mind would kind of get fried. So about 11 o'clock, I wanted to take a mental break and just stop thinking about football and just go run. And so for me, it was actually sometimes an escape.
I gotcha.
Where I could just like escape from that, take a break, and then I'd come back and I'd like, okay, well, there is an answer to get against this defense, and this play might work. And I would think better and I'd think clearer. So it was a great routine for me to help actually clear my mind, and then come back. And I always think better, and I feel better after a run. Yeah. And that's what actually I try to do here too. Is I try to get in early and do some type of run or something to get where I can just get my brain flowing like it used to.
It's like a warm up. So I'm going somewhere with this question. Would you consider yourself to be a person with a good imagination? Like when you were a kid, did you make believe a lot, or did you, as an artist or anything like that? Would you ever consider yourself? Would you describe yourself as a person with a big imagination?
I don't know. I do dream. I do imagine things. I don't know any more than anybody else.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I had so much fun watching the offenses under Andy Kotelnicki and you guys as it's evolved here at Kansas. And I would watch the formations that would come out and the different plays, one being built off another. And I always think there's this really fun thing when you watch a creative offense in football where when the team lines up, the other side, and if you're just as a fan, you're watching going, what are they going to do now? What are they setting up here with the motion that they run or the formation that they have or any of those things? And I've always thought good offensive minds have to be creative people to a certain extent. Like it's a situation where you get to sit down, and I know you're borrowing from other things that you've seen, and we'll get to that too, but you have to, I would think you have to be a person with an imagination to see things on the field that you can do.
I think you always got to have an open mind. You got to think ahead. You got to have an imagination and know that you can't be predictable, and you're always looking at outside sources to make yourself better. And you're always looking to improve and looking to make things look different. But at the same time, I was taught, like, as a base offensive coach, is you want to have a system that's works with your talent. You're putting your guys in your best position to win. And who are the guys you have and what can they do best? And then you want it to be simple enough where they can understand it, so they're not thinking a lot and they can play fast. but still complex in delivery where you're not predictable. And you can make things look different, but maybe it's the same for your guys. And so it's fun to put all that stuff together. To be honest, it's really fun. And then I was very fortunate, with Andy, with Coach Dombrowski, with a lot of the offensive coaches we've had here. They're very creative, and everyone has different ideas. But then sometimes the challenge is to take all those ideas and streamline them, and for everyone to be on the same page and actually get them executed. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of my thing. When I was an analyst, I would give ideas, but I didn't have to execute them. I wasn't there. I didn't have to do all that. So I just had the fun part. It's like, well, if it doesn't work, okay, whatever, next play. But I would give a whole bunch of ideas, and they would use some they wouldn't use. But the challenge and the guys that deserve the credit were the guys that actually executed them and coached them to execute them, which was the offensive staff.
Well, you've stepped back into that. So once you went from analyst back into coaching and executing and all that, how was that transition for you?
It's been good. Well, we're at the initial stages, but it's been awesome. I feel very fortunate, too, that I'm with a great group of kids with the tight ends that are very motivated, call them pleasers. They're good in the classroom. They're good off the field and every single thing they do, and very talented, just at kind of an unproven group because they had a lot of reps. So I feel very fortunate to be around guys like that. They have motivated me since I've been here, but we're just getting into spring ball that starts Sunday, so I'll be able to answer that question a little bit better after spring ball.
Do you remember what caught you about offensive game planning? Like, was there a moment in your life where you started getting really interested in play calling and the way offenses work in football?
I don't know when the exact moment was. My dad was a football coach. He was a defensive guy. He was a head coach for a long time. I started out the first 9 years of coaching I was coaching the second year. I was coaching on defense, which I do think has helped me get better an offensive coach to help understand what they're doing and help to attack them. But then I think just being around different minds and seeing how guys think and just being exposed to different ideas and it's been motivating factors for me. And the more you learn, the more you want to learn, and the more you grow. And I think I've been around so many good coaches that have motivated me to just push forward. Use their ideas and maybe piece it with this idea, or and just to keep studying, because I think that's the best coaches are the guys that keep growing and keep looking to take that next step.
Yeah, I've noticed one of the stories is that you were studying the option offense. Was it Nebraska Kearney, I believe?
Yeah.
And kind of figuring out how you could use that. You could turn over. I stories about Andy Reid studying a high school offense that maybe is something that he wonders if he could. It seems like there's a rabbit hole you could go down and just spend forever looking into offenses from every different level of football. How do you decide where you're going to look and what you're going to study? Yeah,
well, it's ever evolving. I was thinking about this actually while I was jogging the other day. It's just Wildcat. 20 years ago, no one did the Wildcat. No one, and now everyone does a version of Wildcat or putting a running back as a quarterback. And the zone read stuff when I was first at Oregon was just kind of coming out. Now everyone does zone read, and so the game keeps changing. Yeah. The game keeps changing, but it still starts with the players and the players you got, and that was the reason. Matter of fact, when they brought me and I wasn't definitely not an option expert. We had done it. We had a little success with it in Nebraska, and Coach Leopold watched a lot of our tape and liked it, and so that's why they first brought me in. But the reason was because we had a good quarterback. And it was Jalen at the time, and he thought that was kind of as an Andy thought too is hey, this fits our skill set. We got a quarterback that can run, make decisions, and we want ways to get the ball on the perimeter. And we really like what you did. Would you come talk to us? But it all started with the players you got to have, because you got to have players that can run, that type of scheme. And so it was good, and we were able to, use it here without it being too expensive. By expensive, I mean we didn't have to change the whole offense. It was complementary, and it made some of the rest of our run game better. And we were able to build some play actions off of it and really attack the perimeter, and teams still got to defend it. So it was good, and it's still going to be a part of our offense.
Well, let's spin it forward to spring, because we got spring ball coming up right now, as you referenced. How much of that then, especially there have been a lot of seniors that have gone, from last year's team and all that. How much of spring is you figuring out the skill set of the personnel that you're going to have and then designing the offense around it, or is what in what order does that take place?
That's a huge part of it. It's the first order, exactly what you said. Is we want to make things. We have a base system that guys are used to. We do have some returning players, but we have also a lot of new players that are going to have to play for us, and so we want to. We don't want to completely overboard them with a whole bunch of scheme and plays where they're thinking and we can't see their skill set. So we're trying to make things as simple as possible so we can, number one, see who can play and use kind of the spring as the evaluation for us, or who can we count on going into the fall. And then, but at the same time, we always want to kind of grow our scheme. And if someone can do something really well, which we might find out in the spring, we might tweak a thing here, tweak it there to get them the ball. But it's a combination of things. But the number one thing is we want the development of our new players and who those guys are, who stands up after spring, is our main goal of the spring football, to see who those guys are. But to do that, we got to put them in a position where they can succeed, where it's simple enough where they know what they're doing and they're not thinking. And our guys have done an amazing job. As coaches, we've been very limited the last couple of months what we can do with our players because of the NCAA rules, but our players have done a lot of player-led walkthroughs, have done a lot of, they can study the playbook as much as they want. They can, our quarterbacks can take them out and walk them through plays and do stuff as much as they want, and they've really embraced that and done that. So that's been a good thing. So we're not just starting from ground zero, and that's a good feeling that we got a motivated group, and it'll be interesting to see how spring goes, and everyone's excited about it.
Well, we're all excited. I think it's really exciting times being here at the complex and seeing the stadium go up and all the construction that's going on and how busy it is. I think everybody's really fired up for the fall next year. Coach, really appreciate your time. I want to finish off with something that we're going to start doing that's a little fun on the Jayhawker podcast called the Fast Five. So it's just 5 questions. First thing that pops into your head, give me what you got, okay?
Gotcha.
We'll start with an easy one. If you're ordering a pizza, you get 3 toppings. What are the 3 toppings you're putting on the pizza?
Cheese, chicken, and broccoli.
So you're counting cheese as a topping, huh?
I am.
Okay.
I'm not a big dairy guy or
Okay.
pizza guy, but if I was doing it, that's what I would do.
Usually you stay away from the dairy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But cheese, broccoli, and that's a healthy pizza right there. I would push that pizza to the side personally. Okay. I don't know if you ever do a playlist when you're running, but if you do, what is your favorite song to listen to while you're running?
I would say Bon Jovi, Dead or Alive.
Ooh, all right. Bon Jovi, Dead or Alive. That's a good one.
Or Living on a Prayer. I was listening to that this morning. I gotta go back, Living on a Prayer.
Love that. Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen is a good one.
That's
for
a classic.
me. I like that one.
That would fire me up.
Who's the greatest offensive mind in the history of football, in your opinion?
Well, that's the hardest question because I've been around so many amazing minds, and it keeps on changing, and guys keep on progressing. It was, the first time I moved to offense, I got the chance to work for David Cutcliffe, and then I would say he's the guy that really spearheaded me and motivated me, the first guy to branch out and really enjoy offense. So I would say David Cutcliffe.
David Cutcliffe. Peyton Manning's coach in college, right? And Eli's, I think, both,
and
right?
Eli's.
Yeah.
And both those guys actually, even when they're in the NFL, they would come back to Duke when I was coaching there and get trained by him. And I was able to work out and help those guys out a little bit, too, in the offseason, which was amazing.
Okay, if you get the choice, you get the ball at the 10-yard line, and you get the choice of a 15-play, like orchestrating a 15-play, 90-yard drive for a touchdown, or drawing up a play that's so perfect that it goes for 90 yards and a touchdown, which one would you take?
I would take the explosive play and save the other plays for the rest of the game.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, and then just your favorite part of being on campus at Kansas so far. Like if there's a view or anything, just your favorite part of being on campus.
Well, yeah, I think I love the hills of campus, and I used to, when I was here, I would love to run them. And I love driving in here every day and seeing how everyone's working 100 miles an hour on this complex. Saturdays, Sundays, 7 days a week, these guys are here at 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. just grinding away. And I think they're, the work ethic and what they've done to this place, just that blows me away. 'Cause I see that every day I leave, and then they're still working on it when I go home. When I come in, when I go home.
That's inspiring stuff. Your story is very inspiring, Coach. It's really great to get a chance to get to know you a little bit. Hope Jayhawk fans have enjoyed this conversation quite a bit. Best of luck with spring ball.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to do this. Great meeting you.
Xfinity here. How can we help?
Hi, my daughter invited her entire class to her birthday party. Can my Wi-Fi handle it?
Oh, well, at Xfinity, our latest gateways have tri-band Wi-Fi technology, letting you connect hundreds of devices at once.
No way. So if all the kids are watching stuff on their phones, well, their parents are sharing videos online.
Yep, go ahead and watch videos. They can all do their thing and party their way. No problem.
Oh, we are gonna need a bigger cake.
Now through March 4th, get fast, reliable Xfinity Gig Internet for $25 a month for 1 year with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included when you add an unlimited mobile line. And ask how to get an eligible free 5G phone with trade-in. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Requires private post and auto-pay stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Xfinity Internet required. Reduced mobile speeds after use of monthly data included with your data option. Data thresholds and actual internet speeds vary.
I had this patient. His cancer treatment had him in the hospital for a while. One day, he was telling me about his grandson and how a big night was coming up for him. So we arranged to make it a big night for my patient too. I sometimes wonder if I'm doing all I can. Then I help make a moment like this possible, and I know I am.
All right, a great conversation with Kansas co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach Matt Lubick. We got spring football right around the corner, so it's an exciting time at the University of Kansas. You know what else is right around the corner? The Big 12 championships in downtown Kansas City, which brings us to our call of the game, brought to you by the Hilton President Hotel, the only hotel in the Power and Light District. Just steps away from T-Mobile Center, over 200 rooms and suites to choose from. Call 816-221-9490 or go online to presidentkansascity.hilton.com.
They get it in, but it goes through the hands of Hammond, and KU's got the steal with Mayo. Zeke up the floor to KJ. Oh my! He comes soaring in like Superman and spikes it down. KJ soars for the jam.